Joe Colbert. This is about 5 things you must know before the next time your board uses Zoom for a board meeting. One of the first things you should consider is the authority for using a virtual solution for a board meeting. Look at your certificate of incorporation, look at your bylaws, make sure that there's no specific restrictions that the meetings of boards be in person. If they do, then you have an issue. You're now authorized in New York under the non-for-profit corporation law and the business corporation law, depending which one's applicable to your association, to have a virtual meeting of the board, not of shareholders or owners, but of the board. And the section in the BCL is 708, and the section in non-for-profit corporation law is 708. They're a little bit different, and they have a little bit different requirements, but the same thing, which is, you're authorized to use it. So condominiums in New York or homeowners associations in New York are typically incorporated under the non-for-profit corporation law. So there's authority there, and there's also authority under the business corporation laws where co-ops are typically incorporated. In Connecticut, you're now authorized to use it as well. In Connecticut, we have open meetings of the board, meaning unit owners or members of associations get to come, have to be invited to the meeting. The governor in Connecticut signed an executive order 7HH stating that you can have these virtual meetings even though you have an open meeting requirement. So that's very helpful for the time being in Connecticut. Quorum. If you're having a Zoom meeting in New York, in Connecticut, you need to make sure you have a quorum at the time of the board action. So if people are coming in and off of Zoom, you have to make sure that the quorum is established when you're taking the vote. So that's really important. Confidentiality. How many times I've been on a Zoom conference with a board with people in the background, kids in the background. Confidentiality amongst the board is really important. When you're speaking to your lawyer on a Zoom conference, it's even more important because of the attorney-client privilege. You can't have other people in the room and maintain the privilege. Somebody could make the argument that a Zoom conference that is subject to other people seeing a conference that's recorded, or if there were other people in the room with the board members, that wasn't a confidential communication, therefore the attorney-client privilege doesn't apply. So you got to be really careful regarding confidentiality. Another issue is protocols. Somebody's got to lead the meeting. Who's going to be the leader in the meeting? Are people going to be able to interject, or a microphone's going to be shut off? It's interesting. This is one nuance that is difference between the non-for-profit corporation law and the business corporation law. The non-for-profit corporation law talks about the board members being able to not only hear each other, but to have the ability to propose, object to, and vote upon a specific action to be taken by the board or committee. On the business corporation law in New York, it's just about hearing each other. That's why telephone calls and conference calls was always something that you can do under both. But with Zoom, if you mute someone and you don't allow them to object, if you're under the non-for-profit corporation law, the question is, are you authorized to do that? So probably the better course of action, keep everybody's microphone on. Just have a protocol in place where there's one leader and you don't have people interjecting, just like at the same time, just like at a regular in-person meeting. Minutes. You still need minutes. There's no relaxation of the requirement to have minutes, so you need to make sure someone is taking the minutes and that they get circulated and approved at the next board meeting or in between the board meetings. And limiting use. So you don't want to have Zoom conferences for every single meeting. Otherwise, you're going to run into trouble in terms of What's going to happen when people can't make a Zoom conference. Limit it to the important meetings, not everyday meetings. And with respect to recording, be really careful. If you don't record in-person meetings, which is highly recommended not to record meetings, as they may become evidence of certain things that you don't want to have evidence of in the future. Don't record your Zoom meetings. They are a piece of evidence, so they could, it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes you want a record of what happened, but in most cases you're not going to want to have a record of all the deliberations and who said what, and it stifles good discussion by the board. And just like minutes, which should just reflect board decisions, you really shouldn't be recording your Zoom minutes. I hope that's helpful. Take care.